Hey guys, it's Darwin here with my top 10 favorite pieces of backpacking gear from 2020. Yep, I'm still inside here in the studio to shoot this video. I actually tried going outside over the past 2 days to do this video, but it has been crazy cold and crazy windy here in Flagstaff. Actually, the last time I tried to go out, it was like 30-mile-an-hour winds, 25 degrees outside. I like going outside and shooting these videos for you guys and setting that atmosphere, but I don't like it that much. Actually, as the video goes on, all of the B-roll of the gear that you're gonna see, you can kind of notice how insanely windy it is. I actually had a hard time holding on to a lot of the items I'm gonna be talking about in this video, so look out for that. That'll be a fun little Easter egg. All right, so just like every single year, obviously we still have about 3 weeks left of 2020, but for this year I'm basically all geared up. I don't plan on buying anything new until next year to try out. So today I have compiled my list of my top 10 favorite pieces of backpacking gear that really shined for me in 2020. This has been a crazy year for everybody. I'm no exception. I had a lot of my trips canceled that I couldn't go do, but I still managed to get out on a lot of different hikes and random various adventures and bikepacking trips. So I was able to test and use some new gear in this year, plus take out some oldie but goodie stuff that I've been using for years, and that has definitely made my list this year as well. Before we get into the video, all of the gear in this list is paid for by me. I bought it all at full price. None of it was given to me. This video is not sponsored or paid by anyone. All right, so true to form, a shoe usually makes my top 10 list, and this year is no exception. Number 10 is the Ultra Olympus 4.0. This is going to be kind of a reverse of last year's list. So for the past year, I've actually been hiking in the Temp 1.5. Now, to be honest, that has been my favorite shoe that Ultra has ever made. But like all of their shoes, they decided to change it, update it, and the new version just does not work for me. So I was searching for something new to try out, and I decided to pick up and try out the new Olympus. And I gotta say, I have been pretty happy with this shoe. They actually fixed a lot of those little quirks that a lot of people had about the previous version, so it's not as clunky. The heel is not as big. It still has that awesome wide toe box, a Vibram sole with amazing grip. I've been rocking this shoe a lot, and not just on weekend backpacking trips and day hikes, but I've actually gotten back into trail running, and this has been my shoe of choice mainly because of that extra cushion in the back that's great for my knees. So I will be doing a full review of this in the not too distant future, but I definitely want to get some more long distance hiking miles on it before I give you my final thoughts. But because this shoe has really kind of exceeded my expectations of what the Olympus could be, it definitely makes my list for 2020. Number 9 is actually a new piece of gear that I've been interested in for quite some time, but didn't get a chance to try it out until my buddy Juice gave me his out on the Colorado Trail, and that is the Gossamer Gear Thin Light 1/8 inch foam pad. Now you guys might recognize this as being an ultralight pad that a lot of thru hikers use as their main sleeping pad. Look, I'm too bony. This thing is way too thin and it doesn't really work for me. I definitely need an inflatable pad. But when I was out on the Colorado Trail, my buddy Juice was using one of these mainly as his sit pad and to put under his sleeping pad at night to add some warmth. Well, when he got off the trail, he gave me his, and I gotta say, folks, I think that I have found a final replacement for my lovely, long-lived ass pad. So mine is actually torso length, and the reason that I like this over the traditional sit pad is because not only can I use it as a sit pad, right, like it is now, I can also use it as a siesta mat. So in the middle of the day when I'm on the trail, it's hot, I'm tired, I want to take a small nap after lunch, I can use this to throw it out. It's torso length. I can have some protection from the ground. Also, at the end of a day, I like to stretch. I like to do a little bit of yoga, maybe a little bit of meditation, use my Rology ball to roll out my muscles. This is great for that as well. And I can also put it under my sleeping pad to add a little bit of protection from the forest or desert floor and add some warmth to my R value of my pad. And the best thing about it is it basically weighs the exact same amount as my ass pad. So because this one piece of gear basically turns into 4 pieces of gear and gives me 4 different purposes while I'm out on the trail, it definitely makes my list for 2020. Number 8 is actually a piece of gear that I've been prototyping since 2019, and that is the brand new Knock Carbon Cork trekking pole. Now for years I used their previous pole, which was that green Z pole, but I ended up ditching them after I broke a bunch of them in the Sierra on the PCT in 2018. Well, last year Knock reached out to me and said that they were going to be making a beefier US made trekking pole and asked if I wanted to test it and check it out. Well, after giving feedback on this for about a year, going through a few different prototypes, I gotta say, I love the new trekking pole that Knock has come out with. Instead of doing that Z pole design, they went with the classic telescoping flick lock design, and they really focused on making a trekking pole that is easy to repair while you're out in the field. Every single part on this pole, from the shaft to the grip to the flick locks to the carbide tip, can actually be taken off and replaced while you're out on a hike. Knock actually offers all of those parts for either sale or for replacement. So I think what they were actually going after was trying to make sure that you basically bought one trekking pole for the rest of your life. I really love that these new trekking poles are made in the US, in Portland, Oregon, and that they have an amazing cork grip, which you guys know that I love. But my favorite thing about this pole is the fact that it will go up to 64 inches, which means that I can use this pole with my Altiplex tent without using that stupid little pole jack thing. So for all of those reasons, I really love this new trekking pole, which puts it on my list of favorite gear for this year. Number 7 is my custom printed food bag and ditty bag from Hilltop Packs. So I have used DCF food bags and ditty bags like this for years, but when I saw that there was a company that was actually custom printing them with whatever you wanted on there, I had to get some, especially to put the Outdoor Evolution logo on that. Look at that, that's just cool. So the reason this makes my list this year is I think it's genius. When you're out on a trail like the AT and you're using shelters where there are bear boxes where everybody's putting their food bag in there, or using bear hanging cables, a lot of times people are using the exact same bag. I know for years the DCF bag that I used, a lot of other hikers used. So whenever you get up in the morning and you're half asleep and you're trying to go get your food bag so you can make coffee, it's kind of hard to figure out whose is whose. Well, now that you can get your stuff custom printed, I know exactly what bag is mine. To me, any type of gear that you can customize to be your own when you're out on the trail is pretty cool, which makes the custom printed DCF food bag and ditty bag by Hilltop Packs part of my list for 2020. Number 6 is an oldie but a goodie, and that is the BRS Ultralight Stove. So for years I went stoveless. I ditched everything, I ditched my cooking cup, and I ditched my stove to use a Talenti jar and cold soak couscous. Well, last year in 2019, I decided to go back to the stove and started using this little BRS again. This is the same BRS stove that I've had since 2017, and it's still great. It's still tried and true and works for me every single time I use it. This year on the AT, on all the small backpacking trips that I did, on the Colorado Trail, on various bikepacking trips, this thing made me a hot cup of coffee every morning and a warm meal at night. So since this thing has come back into my life since last year, since it has provided me with hot food all year on all these different trails and all these different types of conditions, it definitely makes my list for favorite gear of 2020. Number 5 is a piece of gear that I revisited in 2020 after not liking my original in 2018, and that is the UGQ Bandit XL quilt. So back in 2018, I had a Bandit original quilt, and I took it out and I tested it against my tried and true Enlightened Equipment Enigma, and I honestly didn't really like it. I didn't like the design. Well, at the beginning of this year, UGQ reached out to me and told me that they had redesigned their quilt. I was wanting to try a new quilt to kind of compare it up against my old Enigma, so I decided, what the heck, I bought a brand new UGQ Bandit XL, and I gotta say, this thing has surprised the crap out of me. I've been using this on every single trip since I got back from the AT. So this got used on my West Clear Creek Wilderness trip. It got used on the Colorado Trail, on some recent bikepacking trips that I've done, and basically every little camping and backpacking adventure in between that I've been on this year. Now, I will end up doing a full review of the Bandit XL, comparing it to my Enlightened Equipment Enigma 20 that I've used for years, maybe a versus video, but because this thing totally took me by surprise, because I've been using it extensively in 2020 ever since the AT, it definitely makes my list of favorite gear for this year. Number 4 is actually a piece of gear that I sort of laughed at for quite some time until I tried it, and it completely changed my hygiene game on the trail, which is my backpacking travel bidet. I know, ooh, gross. Well, not having to worry about running out of or packing out shit tickets while you're out on the trail rocks. This little thing is awesome. I'm not gonna go into a description of how to use it, and I'm not gonna give a demonstration. I'll leave that up to your imagination. But I can tell you that by using this, it has definitely upped my hygiene game on the trail by keeping me cleaner overall when I'm out there for multiple days. And it has also upped my leave no trace game by letting me not have to worry about packing out dirty toilet paper, right? I don't care who you are, having to pack out dirty toilet paper, crappy paper, is pretty gross. Well, the fact that I can just throw this little bitty light item in my pack, I can use it with a water bottle, it keeps me cleaner, and it makes me practice leave no trace better. It definitely makes my list of favorite backpacking gear of 2020. Number 3 is a piece of gear that you've probably seen coming because I've been talking about it all year long, and that is my Waymark Evolve pack. Now, this is the pack that I co-designed last year with Waymark. I was looking for something that was going to be great all around for the type of hiking that I like doing. I like to have a small kit, but I like a lot of comfort. I like to hike big miles, but I want something that can carry a good amount of weight when I'm doing a big resupply. Well, I teamed up with Waymark to fully design this pack. And I mean, I gotta say, I'm biased. I absolutely love this pack. This year, I've used this on so many different hikes, long through hikes, on shorter through hikes. I used it on the AT in super wet environments. I used it on the Colorado Trail at high elevation. And I've used it in the desert doing some hiking around Arizona. And it's been great for everything. So I'm not gonna go into all the features of it and the weights and all of that. I'll actually leave a video down below of a full review that I did of it. And I'll put a video up here if you wanna check that out. But because this pack is basically everything that I wanted out of an ultralight through hiking pack, it definitely makes my list for this year. Number 2 is actually a piece of gear that I picked up back in 2019 and haven't really used it until this year, which is the Thermarest UberLite. Now, for some reason, this pad has gotten a really bad name for itself. There are hikers out there that are claiming that it popped really easy and that it leaks and that it didn't keep them that warm. Well, after using this pad exclusively this year, ever since I got off the AT, so I used it on the Colorado Trail, I used it down in the West Clear Creek Wilderness, I used it on various bikepacking trips and small backpacking trips. This pad has been great for me and I haven't had a single problem with it. So far this year, I've put over 800 miles on this pad and slept on it about 32 nights without a single leak. It's kept me warm every single night, and no problems. The other thing that I really like about the UberLite is because that material is much thinner, it feels softer. So overall, I feel much more comfortable on this pad. It's also not as loud and crunchy as the traditional yellow Neo Air X-Lite. So I know there's other hikers out there that have had problems with this, but for me, it's been tried and true for 800 miles this year. Like I said, about 32, 35 nights. So because of that, because this pad has just been awesome, because it's super comfortable and it's really, really lightweight, this pad makes my list for 2020. Okay, so my number one favorite piece of gear from 2020 is, drum roll, my Outdoor Research Echo Sun Hoodie. If you guys have been watching a lot of my videos this year, you will see me wearing this thing a lot. I have basically been living in this sun hoodie all year long. For years, I've always hiked in a button-down, long-sleeve shirt. Well, this year, I sort of threw that old hiking shirt to the side and hiked all of my miles in this since I got off of the AT. It's a really great layer because if you're doing a lot of hiking at high elevation or in the desert where the sun is very harsh, like basically all of the trails that I've done, the Uinta Highline Trail, the Colorado Trail, the bikepacking trip that I just did in the desert, having something like a sun hoodie is a really versatile and great option. I love the hood on it. I love the thumb holes on it. I love the fact that it's UPF 50, I believe. It's super breathable, it's super light, and it's just all around a really great layer. Going forward, I'm actually probably gonna be having this be my main hiking top versus my classic button-down shirt that I've always worn. So because I have basically lived in this thing for about 700 miles this year, I've slept in it every night, I've hiked in it every day, I've rode in it, I even wear it sometimes just around the office and at home. The Outdoor Research Echo Sun Hoodie is my number one favorite piece of gear for 2020. All right, guys, so that concludes my list of all of my favorite gear for this year. Now remember, just because all of this stuff is my favorite gear, it doesn't mean that you're gonna try it and it's gonna work out for you. We all hike differently, we all like different things. But if you wanna check any of this stuff out, I'll leave some links down below. Speaking of your favorite gear, what's some of your favorite backpacking or hiking or bikepacking gear of 2020? What's some stuff that you took out on trail for the first time, or maybe some old stuff that you absolutely loved and that would make your favorite list? Leave me something down below and let me know your thoughts. If you found any value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Now, next time you see me, hopefully I'll be back outside because it won't be so cold and windy and I won't be freezing and I won't have to sit in the studio in front of this wall. Bye.